Today we're making pupusas, the national dish of El Salvador. As some of you know, my stepmom was from Guatemala and I spent a lot of my childhood there, so this type of food is near and dear to mi corazón. I usually make the curtido at least one day ahead of time, but if you can let it set for a week or so, it's even better. We're going to start by cutting up some cabbage, carrots, and red onions. Then we're going to put some salt and some hot water, stir it up, and then put everything in the jar. Try to mix it as best as you can as you're putting it in. Go ahead and pour in the hot salty water and now add some vinegar. I prefer apple cider, but you can use any kind. Now we added some Mexican oregano and we're just going to shake it up. You just want to shake it so that everything's mixed well, and then kind of gently just turn it around so that you get vinegar in the water all over it. You can use canned frijoles, but if you want to prepare them from scratch like I am, you're just going to take some black beans, make sure there's nothing gross in there, give them a good rinse, and then just put them in clean water to soak overnight. Now I also like to prepare the salsa a day ahead of time just so it's easier. I like to get Roma tomatoes, get them the redder the better, and you can char them any way you want, on a skillet, on a tava, or just in the oven is okay on broil. And then you're going to throw all that into the blender. I had more than was able to fit in here, so I'm doing mine in 2 batches. In the first batch, I just did the ingredients that you saw, got those good and mixed up. And now in the second batch, I am putting in some more oregano, and I'm also putting consomme de pollo. This can easily be substituted with a vegetable-based version if you want to keep everything 100% vegetarian. Now we're just making sure it's all mixed up really well. And we're going to go ahead and put it into a pan on high heat. Mixing in both batches here, you can see the difference in color from the one with the consomme and oregano. Now we're going to add in some salt, and then we're going to turn everything down to low. We just want to let it simmer, stir it occasionally, and check the consistency. Usually about the time it's getting violent and making a mess on your stove, it's done. On the day I'm ready to cook them, I go ahead and pour my frijoles in, put in some salt, and I'm going to let this cook for about an hour and add water as necessary. Then when it's about 90% done, throw in some onions and garlic. If you can get roasted red peppers like you get in the jar, those are really good too. Or if you want to add any jalapenos or anything for a little more spice, you can. I cook it till there's about this much liquid left. Some people like to leave a lot more. I like to leave just enough to where the blender can blend it, but not so much that I'm going to have to stand there forever cooking it, waiting for them to thicken up. So now we're using a neutral flavored oil, pouring them in, and we're just going to stand here and keep stirring, which is one reason I don't like to leave a lot of liquid in there like some people do. I mean, if you have a lot of extra time and want to spend it cooking frijoles, that's fine, but I'm kind of lazy, so this is how I like to do it. You just got to wait for it to really thicken up. If you were like serving it as a side dish or something, this is probably about where you'd want to stop, but for the purpose of papusas, I like to stop it, or I like to let it go just a little bit longer so that there's not a lot of extra moisture when I'm cooking them. So about this consistency is what I want, and they're going to continue to thicken as it's setting in the bowl. We're going to put that in and set them aside. Now we're going to prepare queso. This is queso fresco. You can find it at like any Hispanic stores. We're just going to throw it in the food processor and just kind of crumble it up. And this will be going in both the dough and our main cheese mixture. So once it's all crumbled, I'm just going to set it aside and I'm going to start preparing the rest of the cheese mix. I'm using this whole milk mozzarella. If you can find it, that's great. It's a lot softer, but if all you can find is the one that is low moisture, that's fine too. You're just going to add a little more milk in here. So you want to add just the right amount of milk, so it's best to do a little at a time because too much moisture in these at the end can really be problematic. So I just check the consistency. You can see this is still really crumbly, so I'm adding some more milk. And I want it to kind of start to stick together a little bit, but not totally, so almost there. Just putting a little more. Go ahead and mix it up. You can see it's struggling because it is starting to stick. So see how when I press that, it is kind of sticking together, but not so much. Now we're going to prepare the dough. I'm using this one. This brand is Pan. You can also use Maseca. It's the same like you would make tamales or tortillas. This one here absorbs a lot of water compared to the Maseca, so depending on the brand and the quality, it may absorb more or less water, and that's why I really just want to show you guys what we're looking for. So you can see we've added some consomme de pollo, we've added salt and butter. Now I put some hot water in just to help that butter melt. The trick with this is you want to work kind of quickly. So like once you put the water in, don't leave it set. Like put the water in and keep it moving, keep squishing it around. And this brand's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a little worse about this than the Maseca, but if you don't, it will kind of start balling up. You can see I'm kind of around like squeezing, and that's because you'll get these balls in there that are like still dry. So you want to work quickly and squeeze those out kind of early on. And you can see the bottom of this is still really dry because it just absorbs so much water. I know it seems like I'm adding a lot, and there's actually still a lot more to go. I think I probably used about 10 cups in this. So keep adding the water, keep working it in, and yeah, you can see how dry that still is down there. And yeah, that pinching, that's what I'm going around, and some of it's already starting to stick. So you just want to work, get that down in there. I swear this stuff is like thirstier than the uncles in my comment section. Like it'll just keep soaking up so much. It finally got to a point where I couldn't get on the bottom, so I put it on the counter. Because still I needed to add a little more water in, and then kneading it like this, you can also get out any of those lumps in there that you don't want. So it took about 10 minutes on the counter, just kneading everything really smooth and making sure it was all mixed up. And when you check the texture of it, you want to use a clean hand, and you should be able to kind of put it in a ball, and it should be easy to work with and soft. But as you can see, it's not sticking to my hands. Now that we have all the separate ingredients prepared, we can lay everything out and get ready to assemble them. I'm just putting some oil here in this bowl of water. That is what we're going to put on our hands. Whenever we are patting the dough so that it doesn't stick. It actually burned myself when I made the salsa. I burned myself from the broiler or the oven, so I'm using gloves. And I actually filmed this part the next day, so the dough was cold, and that's why you're seeing some little cracks there. And since I have gloves on, normally your hands would warm it up a bit. So that's not from the dough being dry. That's just from it being cold. But it still works okay. So you're just going to put everything in there. You can, decide your own bean cheese ratio. This is how I like to do it. And then you're just going to take kind of the flat part of your hand and turn it and just kind of flatten that out. And then once you got it nice and flat and even, you're just going to put it on high on the skillet, or like I'm using a griddle here because I'm going to be making a few of them. And then just let it set and give it a flip. Once it sets for a minute, it should be able to move around freely, not stick or anything like that. And yeah, so now I've got quite a few going here. These are things that you definitely want to eat while they're still warm. They do not set well. So as soon as they're done, go ahead and put your sauce in curtido and enjoy immediately.